Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Raful. I am your host of At This Stage, presented by Camp Broadway. With our friends at Streamable Learning, I am live to you from my apartment in New York City, connecting you with Broadway professionals, both on and off the stage, connecting them to you, our friends, our family, our students, and our teachers. I'm so excited you've chosen to join us for the next 35 minutes or so. We have such a fantastic guest today. Start thinking of those questions you have for him, and you can put them in the Q&A feature, and I promise to get to as many of them as I can. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today, Michael Griffo. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Anna, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to do a quick bio so our friends can get a quick sense of who you are. So Michael has been a theatrical agent at ICM Partners, one of the top talent agencies in the world for over a decade. His primary focus he primarily focuses on representing theatrical designers, scenic, costume, lighting, sounds, projections, making him an expert in the field. His roster of clients include Tony, Emmy, Oscar-winning designers and artists whose work is represented each season on Broadway, Off-Broadway, and the West End, just to name a few. Michael also is a fantastic writer. He's written over 25 plays, screenplays, and novels. His first play, No More Sundays, won the New Jersey Perry Award for Best Original Play. And he's also written two young adult supernatural trilogies, the Archangel Academy series and the Darkborn Legacy, which we will definitely get into today. And he's currently writing a cozy mystery series, the Ferreira Family Mystery Series, which the fourth installment, Murder at Victoria's Diner, will be published in December. Hi, that's a lot. Hi, good Lord.
I'm tired already.
So first things first, how are you? Where are you?
I'm fine, personally, professionally. Thank you very much. All thankfully safe, healthy. Everybody is good in my world. And I come to you from beautiful Secaucus, New Jersey.
Oh, love it. I love it. Fantastic. So before we get into all of the current exciting things that you do, just give us a little insight to young Michael. What piqued your interest in theater, if that's sort of how you got started in this world?
Yeah, absolutely. I always loved theater. I mean, it's almost a cliche. My first record album, which I bought, I mean, some of the high school kids who are listening don't even know what that is. Ask your parents. Vinyl was Godspell. The second was The Sound of Music. In second grade, when I was in St. Anne's School in Hoboken, New Jersey, I was the star of The Littlest Angel, which my mother produced. And I remember her saying to her person, well, why is your son the star? And she said, if I'm producing this show, he's the star. So my mother was kind of Mama Rose, I guess. And from there, I was always one of those kids who was doing something creative. I was either writing a play of some sort, writing a short story, putting on shows in the backyards with my cousins, doing theater in grammar school, high school, college, community theater. I did it professionally. And interestingly enough, I was that actor who loved tech rehearsal. I found it so interesting because I knew nothing about it. I'm sure if there are kids out there who have done theater, it can be tedious because you're not doing anything and you need to just stand quietly and shut up, and that is not the actor's tendency. They want to find their light, but the lighting designer needs to find your light before you do. How's that?
Very nice. Very true. Very true.
Right. So that's, it's not surprising that when I was doing theater in Broadway Rose Theater in Tigard, Oregon, their inaugural season, I'm not a night owl. I'm a morning person. So everybody would go out after the show. I would be up kind of by myself. For whatever reason, I said, I'm going to write a book. Yeah, as you do. So that's when I started writing my first book.
Wait, how old were you at that moment?
I was an adult. I was 25.
Okay.
Or so. Yeah.
So you were doing both at the same time. You were so let's go back before I jump to that. So did you study technical side of theater versus being on stage in high school? Did you study it in college, or did you go straight professionally?
No, I didn't study in school. I took classes outside, on my own. The Barrow Group has a wonderful class. It still does, I believe, with Seth Barish in the city. And I took some other classes in New Jersey and stuff. But I went to NYU to be, I enrolled as a psych major. I wound up a journalism major. There, because I had great guidance. Didn't really do anything with theater, although I took voice lessons at college, and really did the community theater stuff. Did some Off-Broadway. Then I was working and literally decided to quit my job to be an actor, which was the best and worst thing I ever did, because I have no shame or problem speaking in front of thousands of people. You learn teamwork, collaboration. My professional trajectory, there's a hole there, so it took a little bit of a gap, but that's fine. I found my way. So yeah.
So then all of the stuff you were doing off Broadway in the community was on stage or behind the scenes?
Always on stage. Always on stage.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you find yourself in this sort of path as a theatrical agent? What took you there?
I had a job. It was at a magazine. I thought I was going to be an editor. The magazine folded. Thought I would coast. 9/11 came. No job to be found. I said I wasn't going to take a job as an assistant or work for a lawyer. So I took a job working for a lawyer as his assistant at ICM. That's how I got there, because I could not find another job. I always felt I was there for a reason at ICM. To condense the story, my trajectory, for those of you out there who are interested in being an agent, my trajectory is unorthodox, but laid the foundation for some of the things you need to be a good agent. I worked in the business affairs department, so I worked for an attorney. We worked on theatrical contracts. Then I worked for another guy who did primarily film, but also some big commercial, like we worked on the Chicago film of the musical Chicago, plus the tour and the international contracts for that. And I also worked in the book to film department, which is exactly what you think it is. It's turning books to films. So there was an opening in the theater department for someone to primarily represent designers. And because I had such a strong contract business affairs background, those are the elements that are needed. Those are the job requirements for that role. A lot of agents, believe it or not, are lawyers because you need to know a contract. I mean, basically what you do as an agent is find work for your client, negotiate a deal, and get them paid. And a big part of that is negotiating a deal. And if you know a contract, you're so far ahead of the game because you can speak that language. Oftentimes you hand it off to a lawyer or a business affairs executive to wrap up the deal, but you need to know the specifics of the contract.
Right.
So there you go.
I think what's so fascinating, and I want to point out, especially for all of our youngsters watching, that you took all the steps that led you to where you are, and that all of those things along the way only helped you do what you do. I mean, had you not been in business affairs or worked on the contracts, like I think you just, in a way, you just said yes to everything that came across your way.
Yeah, I really did. At the end of the day, I'm the son of a longshoreman from Hoboken, New Jersey. So, you know, and I'm from Jersey, and there really is something to that aspect of being a hustler and always taking every opportunity. Now, there are many opportunities that I ignore, that I let slip by. Everybody does that. The difference is you can't dwell on that. You have to keep looking forward. You have to take what you have and just move forward. And a friend of mine really pointed this out to me years ago. Stop looking at your present as a state of lack. Don't think about what you don't have or what you don't know. Think about what you do know and what you do have. And you'll realize, yeah, I do have a lot to offer, and I do know this stuff. And I think it serves everyone so much better than constantly thinking, oh, this person has more than me, I don't have that, I can't do that. Doesn't serve anybody.
I think that's very important to think about nowadays as well.
Oh,
yeah. Let's just get a little technical for a minute. You said it for a moment, but can you just explain maybe the difference between an agent versus a manager versus, you know, just for our people that may not know as much?
Sure. The manager is basically someone who guides a career. Managers are typically only in the talent world for actors. Maybe a writer. You don't really find managers for designers. Playwrights, you really don't have a manager per se. Directors don't. It's really a talent thing. And quite honestly, it's because an actor, for good or bad, is all about the self. And they need to brand themselves. And it is incredibly difficult to make noise. So they feel that if you have a good manager, they're going to be able to push you in the right direction. The agent is the person getting you the work. They're the one who has their boots on the ground, their ear to the ground.
Ear to the ground, boots on the ground. Boots on the ground too. I think you're good.
They got everything on the ground.
Everything's on the ground.
It's all on the ground. And they're an agent for an actor, a director, and a writer. They're the ones who are very proactive. They're sending your material out. They're finding out about the jobs. They're the ones getting you the work. An agent for designers, our role is unfortunately a little more reactive. We have a saying, the designer doesn't drive the bus. We represent multiple Tony Award winning designers. It doesn't matter. If they want to do Annie, it ain't going to happen because that person wants to do Annie. It's only going to happen if they have a star, or if Joe Montello decides, or Ivo Van Hove decides he wants to do a revisionist version of Annie, which I would love to see. I'd love to see it. And that red dress would have a whole new meaning, but they might drive a production. They might get it greenlit, to use that word. A designer's not going to. So unfortunately, we are usually in a position where we get the deal and we have to make it the best as it possibly can be. That's where we come in. ICM, because it is so huge and so well known and so prestigious, what we can do often is, if a designer gets a deal or gets an offer because he or she has a relationship with a director or a producer or a regional theater, and they can't do it for whatever reason, we can sometimes turn it around and get another designer attached to the project, which is something a smaller agency will not be able to do. We also do, as part of our job, I have something that I have labeled my Griffo active, to be a little more active, which is we'll just do cold calls and cold emails out to theaters and producers across the country, opera companies, ballets, symphonies, to introduce them to our clients. Our designers. And, you know, like with everything else, you might get 1 out of 20, you might get a bite. And it has resulted, but we're able to do that again because when they see ICM's name, oh, this is legit. They got some good people. So that's pretty much the differences among all those roles.
I have a question from an attendee. How many different categories do theatrical agents cover? And is it anything like a sports agent?
It's a little bit like a sports agent. It's the same sort of a thing. Like I said, agents who represent writers and directors and playwrights. To answer the first question, every agent is different. When you're starting out, it's like anything else. You're going to represent whoever you can because you're hungry for money, and it's quantity over not necessarily quality, but it's a quantity game at the beginning. You don't have you as the agent are making a name for yourself, so you might represent an actress, a playwright, a lighting designer, a projection designer, and an author. Well, no, I'm sorry, not an author. That's totally separate. But in the theatrical world, you're going to represent a group of people. As you grow, you're going to find what you like most, what makes you the most return for your investment, because it's a business, and where you've seen the most success. So usually what happens is an agent will go like that, and they'll start to carve out their own niche. So most agents will have a specialty. They're going to represent actors. They're going to represent playwrights. Some will represent TV writers. Some will just represent below the line in film. So that's what they call designers. And all the below the line people, they all have different names: director of photography, cinematographer, all of that stuff. Like I said, my trajectory was a little bit different. It was pretty much handed to me. This is what we need you to do. When you represent designers, it gets very specific. So it's a little bit hard to diversify. And it's also a different sort of thinking. So it's a little hard to also represent playwrights and directors and do them justice.
Sure, that makes total sense.
And then as far as sports agents go, I know nothing about sports other than the figure skating world, which I am obsessed with. And I'm an adult level 6 skater. If I ever get back on the ice, I'm taking private lessons. Thank you. And I haven't broken any bones yet. You know, it's the same thing as a sports agent. You are negotiating the best deal possible. You are looking for other opportunities for them to diversify. You are looking for, you know, it's not so much where you're looking for, I guess, you know, you're looking for what other teams that they can play on when their contract gets up. They become, I don't even know what the word is. What is
free agent?
Free bird, I was going to say.
Free agent, yeah.
Become a free agent. So it's a little bit like that, yeah.
Before we switch to your role as an author, I just want to ask, I know you talk a lot with besides here today, but you also talk with high schoolers and college kids about what an agent does. Do you have suggestions for our up and coming actors and actresses about, you know, should they get an agent? How do you get an agent? At what point should, you know, all those questions they have?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is you absolutely need an agent at some point in your career to be looked at as professional and to work with the studios and the producers and the theaters that you want to. Don't rush it, because you can do some work. First of all, you have to know your craft. You have to study your craft. You have to figure out who you are. What do you want from an agent? You don't just say, oh, I want an agent. I want an agent. Well, what do you want an agent to do for you? Where do you see your career in 5, 10, 15 years? Arm yourself with that information. I always say, you know yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you want to do? Why are you an actor or a playwright or a designer? Get all that work. Work on all of that information to gather it. Then realize you don't have to go to Broadway right away. That doesn't have to be an immediate goal. It is really, really difficult not only to be on Broadway, but to live in New York and survive. As I tell people, and sometimes they don't listen, you know, being the lighting designer at a resident theater in Iowa is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You're working on your craft. You're creating art for an audience. You may not get recognized by the New York Times, but is that why you want to be an artist? So you really need to be very honest with yourself. It's also a lot cheaper to live in Iowa than it is in New York. And same goes for acting. There are many, many regional actors, especially in the Chicago, Midwest area, who will never want to go to New York. They do their job, they go home, they have a normal life. So I think, especially in this day and age when it is incredibly competitive, when there are so many opportunities out there for you, you need to do the legwork yourself. Ask people, reach out to people that you don't know or that you admire. Find out what it is that you need, and then also realize you're your own, you're an entrepreneur, basically. You need to understand money. You need to understand that an agent is taking 10% of your fee. They need to earn it. So if you have a problem with an agent, or don't be afraid to ask hard questions. What are you going to do for me? What do you see yourself doing for me? Also, just so you know, I mean, it's a much larger discussion, but in large scopes, you never pay your agent money that isn't earned. So if any person ever says, give me 100, 1,000, whatever, no, they're not legit. They make money on the work they get you. You can, I don't represent actors, but in the design world, you can do work on your own that doesn't get funneled through your agent. They don't have to do all your work for you. So you can do stuff on your own, especially if it's really low paying, or if it's with a long-standing colleague that you've known and there's nothing for the agent to do. If the agent works on your job, if they get you the job, they get a cut of the they get their commission. So it's a lot of little stuff. Go do internships, go to summer camps. Unfortunately, things are up in the air now, of course, but look in your community, work with a community theater even. Ask the questions, go backstage, do the work on your own, so that when you go to school or when you get that first, I don't know, opportunity, you're armed with as much information and experience as you possibly can. And you also learn, you may think you want to be a set designer and you're like, yeah, I hate this. I want to be a sound designer. It happens. You may think you want to be an actor. No, I want to direct. You're not going to know unless you do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I love that. Thank you. Let's switch a little bit to your life author. So you said you started writing at 25. Have you always been a big reader? Have you, what sort of made you pick up a pen and go?
I've been writing since I was a little kid, and I wish, this is the other thing, keep everything you create. I have stories that I remember the titles of, you know, Unexpected Company. I wrote a whole soap opera called Secrets. I can't find it. I wrote a whole, like, 300-page Bible, which is what they call the outline for a year's worth of story. I wrote these little plays and short stories. Keep everything you write, just so you know where you've grown as a writer. When I was acting, I should have, part of me wants to say that the acting part was all for the ego, that I like to be in the spotlight, and that might be true, and that's a really, that's an honest assessment, because the way I have learned that I prefer to tell a story and am better at telling a story is through words, is through my writing. So like I said, I've been writing. I went to see the revival of A Delicate Balance with Elaine Stritch, and I think Rosemary, I want to say Forsyth, don't know if that's right, Rosemary something, and I went home that night and I wrote the first scene of No More Sundays. And that's how I got started. And then I just started writing a bunch of plays and sending it out. Then I took some formal training. I took classes at Gotham Writers Workshop, the New School, worked with a bunch of writers groups. And it really kind of snowballed from there.
We have a couple of questions here from our audience. How much of an influence has your family and ethnic background been in your writing?
It's an incredible influence. When you're starting to write, you really do have to write about what you know, I believe, if you want to have an authentic voice. You can, because you don't really know your craft yet. You're still struggling with that. You're finding your own voice as a writer. So what I feel what you have to offer is, well, I have myself. And I am an Italian Catholic kid who was brought up in Jersey. So that's what my first play was about. And in fact, most of the books that I'm writing now, they're set in New Jersey, and it's Italian. It's a group of Italian ladies and their granddaughter. So I think it's don't dismiss your upbringing. You may want to rebel against it. I want to get out of Tennessee. Use it, because what you're writing about most likely is a universal truth. Most things, what's going to make your story and your voice unique is that it's set on a mountain range in Tennessee, and I hope Tennessee has mountains.
They do.
I pray they do. And your very specific family interdynamics will play a role. Now you have to be careful. You don't want to abuse that privilege. You don't want to use the writing as a way to get back at anybody. You have to be really aware that you might be writing about real people in the beginning. Or you may not think you are, or you may do it deliberately. Be aware of that. And that's fine for a first draft, because that's where it starts. And then you build upon that.
Do you cover a lot of different genres in your writing, the fantasy and the mystery, and do you have a favorite first, and do you treat how you approach them as a writer differently? Do you start in a different place?
That's a great question, because I have a couple different pseudonyms and pen names. I think I might have a little ADD, and I have a lot of energy and enthusiasm toward the writing, and I want to explore as much as I possibly can while I'm on here on this earth. So I have to say, I am loving writing the cozy mysteries. I did not think I would be. The reason I am is because for me, it's all about the character. It's all about the character that you create and what situation you put that character in. And it could be that the character's a hybrid vampire, as is the case with, hold on, we have show and tell. As is the case with Unnatural, the Archangel Academy books. Or it could be that the 16-year-old girl is a victim of family curse, as in the Darkborn Legacy side story. I read Suzanne Collins's Hunger Games, and my takeaway was nobody else's. I was fascinated that she wrote in the first person present tense. I never read that before, or it never clicked in my brain that I did. And I said, I'm gonna do that. Well, be careful what you wish for, because then I wrote 3 books, which is basically 1,200 pages in the first person. So she's on every page, and I have to be a 16-year-old girl on every page. Yeah. I did it. And it was a great challenge. And now, we have the Cozy Mystery Series, Murder on Memory Lake, Murder in Tranquility Park, Murder at Icicle Lodge, blah, blah, blah. And all of them, I just look at them as real people. I put them in these situations. They have to have a truth. whether they're dealing with vampires, werewolves, bodies falling out of a treehouse in the middle of your park. It has to be real. So my job is to make these stories entertaining but truthful. Besides, you know, the scholarly part, always trying to be a better writer, which can be a challenge when you're cranking out what are essentially mystery novels, where you need to talk about plot and red herrings and clues and suspects. Having the breadth to have some literary devices in there and to improve your writing. I love that challenge. Sometimes I need it, sometimes I'm happy with it, sometimes it's like, nope, this ain't the place for it. But to say, do I have oh, and there's my bird clock.
There it is, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. To say if I have a favorite, that's a really hard question. It's almost like a Sophie's choice, and I don't have a real answer.
That's
I
okay.
really don't. Sorry.
That's okay. Do you approach, for some of our young playwrights watching, do you approach writing plays versus novels differently? Does it still come from the character, or is there a plot idea, or it just depends?
It's so interesting. In the novel world, in the world of fiction, there's a phrase called, are you a plotter or a pantser? Meaning, are you a writer who plots out your entire story before you write it, or are you a pantser who flies by the seat of their pants? Clearly, I am a control freak because I try to be a pantser. I took a great class, and I recommend anybody, Gotham Writers Workshop. They're inexpensive. They're very collaborative. They're really cool. I took my first formal creative fiction writing class 2 years ago. I realized I never took one before. So maybe I should. And I took a sci-fi class because I really do love sci-fi. I learned that I am not a hardcore sci-fi person. I'm sci-fi light. I tried to do a pantser on an idea, 3 chapters, haven't touched it in 2 years. So, however, and I also don't have the luxury of time because I work full time. Sure. So whenever I write a book, I have a 50 to 60 page detailed outline of the story that I break into chapters. So when I start writing on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, I know what I'm going to write about. I have freedom to play within the confines of that structure, but I know my beginning and my end of that chapter. A play, completely different. I have never had an outline for a play, and I don't know if I could, because a play is so much more abstract. A play can be so much more theatrical. You don't have to have, there are no rules in a play. You could do whatever you want. You could be in one space in one moment and 500 miles away the next. So there's a freedom there. So if anybody out there is thinking, oh, I have a story, but I don't know what it is, that's fine. But if you're gonna put your story on the stage, it needs to be on that stage. That's where it needs to live. And you need to understand the story that I'm telling on the stage is not the story I would tell in a book. And it's also going to be told differently. There are many more rules, I think, in fiction, you know, to write fiction, especially genre fiction. They can be broken, but that audience really wants a specific type of story to be told to them. But in fact, what I did was, during this pandemic, I do in many ways, even though it's horrible, people are suffering, people have died, it's a terrible thing. I don't know what's gonna happen to the economy or the theater world will emerge new. I've accepted it as a gift, and I've worked on a lot of projects. So someone said to me, oh, do you ever write plays for high schools? Specifically to be performed by high school students, competitions, whatnot. And I said no. So I wrote 4 of them. And it really kind of got my playwriting juices back, because I realized, oh yeah, I'm not confined by space or time or even character, you know? Yeah. Case in point, I wrote something called Jane Eyre in Outer Space. There you go.
It. I mean, she would do great in outer space.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Why not? Why not?
I have a couple more questions before I have to let you go. This is the worst, and I apologize, but I love hearing the answer. Do you have a favorite musical or play, either that you've been in or seen? It can be more than one.
I love the musical Carrie. I saw the original in the last row. I saw it when it first was out. I think it's a great musical for kids because it speaks about bullying and peer pressure. It has some great music. I just was watching some clips of The Secret Garden and Sideshow. I love those musicals. I am attracted more to like the Phantom of the Opera. I love the lush music. I appreciate Sondheim. He is a genius. You need to be a little older to appreciate Sondheim. I love Company. I think Follies is my favorite of his. As far as plays go, A Delicate Balance is one of my favorite plays. I absolutely love the play Rumors, which is just a silly farce by Neil Simon. What are my favorite? As far as authors go, Shirley Jackson is one of my favorite authors. Holy mackerel.
I know it's a lot.
It's a loaded question. But read everything you can. Even if you don't finish it, start reading it. Learn what good writers, how they write across the board. Yeah. Dreamgirls is a great musical. Oh my God. Yeah.
All right, last but not least, Camp Broadway, our motto is develop your character. What does character mean to you?
Character, I touched upon it before. It's who are you? Who are you as a person? Who are you as an artist? And you don't know that oftentimes when you're younger, and that's fine. Don't be in such a hurry to know. Be in a hurry to explore. Find out who you are. What do you know? What do you believe in? What's your moral compass? What are the ideals that you believe in? Not the ideas so much, the ideals. What do you want from the world? So when you are put in a situation where you have to make a decision, where you see something you may not believe in, you know why you don't believe in that. You won't get swayed by the shiny object that we all get swayed by. You will know who you are. You'll have a very firm foundation, and that will make you a stronger individual, but it's also going to make you a stronger artist. Not a better, because that's a really loaded word, but you're going to know who you are. What do I want to create? What do I want to say? What message do I want to convey to the world? And I'm a lot older than you are, and I'm still asking those questions. So don't, and I did this, we all do this. You want to put bookends. Oh, if I only get this, I'm going to be this. Or I'm going to have this. I gotta do this. I gotta check this off the list. Well, it ain't a list. So that's how I hope that was an explanation.
It was. No, it was. Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. You're
Thank
such a
you. I appreciate it.
How can people find you, follow you, find out all about your books and what you do?
Go to michaelgriffo.com is my website. It's a work in progress, but I'm there. Go to Amazon.com, type in my name, there's an author page. I'm on Twitter, Michael2264. Sometimes I'm angry at IKEA because I couldn't get delivered. I tried to go against Amazon. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't respond to me. I could only get a chair if I picked it up in Frisco, Texas.
Oh,
so
my.
sorry. And I'm on Instagram. I guess it's Michael Griffo as well. But yeah, I'm there, and feel free to email or chat or tweet or whatever you do.
Perfect. And make sure you follow Camp Broadway on all of our social media, Twitter, Instagram. We just announced 2 weeks ago that we will be doing our virtual camp this summer. So if you're looking for something fun to do in July, come join us. And join me next week for our fantastic interview, same time, same place, with Amanda Laverne, Broadway performer. Thank you once again, Michael. Everyone have a great week. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.